So I finally watched a Satoshi Kon movie for the first time, and the only thing I'm disappointed at is that it took me this long to finally watch one of his movies. Although I am looking forward to seeing the rest of his filmography, I want to spend today talking about how great Paprika is. Paprika was released in 2006 and is Satoshi Kon's last movie before his tragic death in 2010. I love Paprika for its fascinating subject matter, funky music, and most of all, its pure, unapologetic display of creativity, which I admire. In the next few minutes, I'll cover 3 ways in which Satoshi Kon showcases his creativity, using this film as a case study. I'll talk about creativity in imagery, story, and production process. So strap on your DC minis and let's dive into the world of Paprika. If there are 2 things that Satoshi Kon is known for, it's editing and imagery. And while there are tons of YouTube videos already covering this, I feel it's impossible to make a Satoshi Kon video without talking about how creative the imagery in Paprika is. On a macro level, this is a movie that can only be told through animation. Animation allows a filmmaker full control over not just what the audience sees in the frame, but also which aspects to focus on, to a degree that live-action movies simply cannot. With animation, filmmakers play with different rules to convey emotion through the way characters and objects move and react. And this medium allows Satoshi Kon to utilize the full range of his creativity. As Kon once said in an interview, in animation, only what is intended to be communicated is there. If I had a chance to edit live action, it would be much too fast for audiences to follow. In animation, the audience understands this momentum. And let's face it, watching animated movies always puts us in a different headspace because the possibilities of what we might see are practically endless. And that fits perfectly with the subject matter of Paprika, which is dreams. Now I know what you're thinking. Dreams and messing with the mind in general have been covered plenty of times in live action, but I find that the unbridled, animated craziness of Paprika best captures the randomness, unreliability, grotesqueness, and wonder that our dreams represent. I mean, think about Inception, a movie that is almost always compared to Paprika. Despite being an incredible film in its own right, Inception's dream worlds are so structured and well realized that it almost can't represent our actual dreams, which are often fleeting, muddled, and sometimes lacking any logic. These are words that I could easily use to describe the imagery of the dream worlds in Paprika, and that's because Satoshi Kon's imagery stems from the unconscious mind at work in our dreams. It's well known that Paprika scenes draw a lot from surrealism, an art style which rejects rationality and seeks to use imagery to liberate the repressed unconscious mind. In surrealist artworks, much like in dreams, the rules of space, time, and identity just don't apply, and Satoshi Kon uses Paprika to demonstrate that in some bizarre but beautiful ways. Another way creativity is demonstrated in Paprika is through its story. Here, I want to cover 2 things, 1 about the overall structure and 2 about character arcs. In terms of its structure, you could be forgiven for thinking that the structure in Paprika is a little disorienting. Scenes often transition between the dream world and reality without telling the audience. And even up to the climax of the film, I was constantly on the edge of my seat, wondering what was going on. Are we in the dream world or the real world? More importantly, where is the line drawn between the two? It's this uncertainty which makes Paprika such an ambitious film to put to screen, and couldn't have been realized without the creative license employed by Satoshi Kon. And yet, the genius of Paprika is that even with all of this, the overall story is still a cohesive one. Paprika is first presented to us as a mystery, where the scientists, led by Dr. Chiba, are investigating the theft of their DC minis, the dream devices of the film. This investigation forms the backbone of all the twists and turns that follow, giving the audience a psychological anchor, as Paprika quickly transitions into a fantasy adventure film. It really does represent so much of what makes cinema awesome, and a common interpretation is that Paprika is also about cinema. The idea of cinema as a whole manifests quite literally in the characters of Paprika and Detective Konakawa. Paprika is clearly a movie lover, but I'm more interested in Konakawa's character arc. Spoiler territory for 30 seconds, but Konakawa is haunted by the guilt of abandoning his best friend and their shared filmmaking goals. Because of these regrets, he represses his love of movies. But when we explore Konakawa's subconscious, we see what resembles a montage of classic movie scenes. With the help of Paprika, Konakawa comes to terms with his guilt and rediscovers his love for movies in the end. It's in this way that Paprika represents creativity at its finest by showcasing how cinema, imagination, and dreams all intertwine within the confines of an animated film. Dreams, much like cinema, are a mode of escapism. But if filmmaking itself is the source of your guilt, then it's easy to see how Konakawa's dreams became nightmares. The third and final way Paprika showcases its creativity is in its production process, and this may not be entirely unique to Paprika, so I'll keep this brief. The production of the film is worth a mention because of how clearly the creative process is depicted in the behind-the-scenes TV special. There are three key takeaways here. Number one, Paprika was adapted from a pretty revolutionary novel, and Satoshi Kon was extremely careful about adapting the book into a format that was suitable for film, but also captures the spirit and multiplicity of the source material.
そのままやるんだったら、それは小説の方がはるかに素晴らしいし、意味がないと思うんで。
He did this with some very creative use of visual storytelling, such as adding this opening shot to link small subconscious thoughts into full-blown dreams. There's also this scene in a car where the movement of raindrops directly represents the conversation the characters are having about dreams converging. Number 2, Satoshi Kon took a risk by working on his storyboards before deciding on the ending, when usually you decide on the ending of the script before starting to storyboard. This demonstrates how confident Satoshi Kon was in letting his creative sensibilities dictate the outcome of the film, and it's safe to say that it worked.
最後が先に見えちゃうと、最後に向かって作っていくようなところがどうしても出てきてしまうんで、自分に最も向いた方法論と違うものもあえて使っていこうかなとは思いますね。
Third and finally, Satoshi Kon let his cast and crew suggest changes that would enhance the viewing experience. They say that a story is written 3 times, once in the script, once when you shoot the film, and once in the edit. And it was clear in this particular scene in the recording room that Satoshi-san truly believed that and was open to collaboration. For any lover of film and its possibilities, Paprika is a must-watch. Drawing from ideas of the human psyche as well as the art of filmmaking, Paprika is brimming with creativity from a writer and director whose understanding of animation was unparalleled. There will never be another Satoshi Kon, but his legacy and influence will live on as long as unrestricted imagination continues to be an element of cinema. Right now, I can't wait to see the rest of his movies. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. I hope you liked it and that you learned something new. Paprika is a great film, and if you have a Netflix account, I suggest you watch it immediately if you get the chance. As always, I'll be back with another video soon, so until next time, have a great week ahead, maximum hype, and I'll see you soon.